All right. And we're back. This is your special guest that I was talking about earlier today, Mr. Jason Rouslin, one of the OGs, honestly, of PGA DFS space. He's probably been doing this for, it's got to be 10 years or at least close to 10 years now. So happy to have Jason here. How long has it been? How long has it been?
Yeah, it's been 10 years that I've been playing it at least. 2015 was the first time, but writing or doing content or being involved with it was 2016. Yeah, so we're creeping up on a decade. It's been a fun decade.
Crazy how much time has passed, because like I was talking to the Tour Junkies guys, and like they've been around. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, and I think it's been 10 years for them now doing their podcast. That's a long time to be doing a podcast.
That's
for PGA DFS.
Yeah, good on
good
them.
Commitment. Yeah, but yeah, happy to have Jason here. He's working on tons of things. We'll talk about that here throughout the show or at the end of the show. But we're going to talk through. We get Jason's thoughts on the golf course, and then we'll talk through the pricing on fantasygolfbag.com. We'll go down the stat model and talk through. I'm sure Cantley will come up, and then Spieth, unfortunately, just missed out. I think if he finished top 5, he would have got in, right?
Yeah, I think he needed one.
Yeah.
T6 wouldn't have done it because Griffin ended up getting to T4.
Okay.
Which, it was.
I think top 5 that wasn't already in. Was that how it was?
Yeah, based on how the points broke down because it was really just Mexico and last week for that Aon top 10. So if you got in the top 5, obviously.
See, I kind of like that. So like I was thinking about this the other week. So like with one and done now, they have I forget what they're called. They're like
segments. Yeah.
Segments. Yeah. Like it would be cool for like these signature events to be completely dictated by segments. So like you would get the top guys to have to play however many events to get in, to play into that next signature event if they want to play.
Yep.
And now the younger guys, like Ben Griffin's playing his 10th straight week right now.
That's insane.
It's a lot.
You got to give him credit for the grind at this point.
And he's gotten better. Like we always think about, at some point you'll drop off. Dude finished. I mean, he made $500K almost last week. So kudos to him. Not many guys do that. Everyone talked about Eric Cole to start the season. Ben Griffin was the guy that's going to play.
It's actually been if you drafted Ben Griffin on the underdog teams, if you did that, like he is, I think he might be the number 1 scorer, as you said.
Has to be, yeah. Has to be.
I mean, it's insane.
At least cumulatively, he has to be. Yeah, I agree. So, but yeah, we'll get into the pricing. I'll go ahead and pull it up. So while I do this, though, Jason, if you want to talk through Bay Hill, like I said, I gave a pretty thorough deep dive into it. I kind of talked to you about a few of the things that I brought up, but obviously it is a long golf course, very demanding, good rough. The rough is very penalizing. Ball strikers prevail. I will say too, I'll hop to this really quick. I thought this was interesting. We'll go back. So like what I've done recently is start to look at guys. This is just winners. So obviously like looking at top 10 would be a little bit more, informative. But like when you look at like a Kurt Kitayama coming out of nowhere, like how strange is that for someone playing so poorly? Usually this is a ball striker's course in terms of driving it, good long irons, mid irons. It just was crazy to me to go back and look at Kitayama being in such bad form and winning on this type of golf course. So
it's a great golf course. I would actually consider this like your home event.
It is, yeah. And I will be there on Sunday. I'll be there on Sunday.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of like my secondary home event as Valspar is really in my backyard. But yeah, Bay Hill, I love it. It's a great golf course. It's a great test because they do not give you a break. You're not going to get the overseeded ride that you saw last week. What's funny, by the way? Speaking of Valspar in Copperhead, did you know that the Innisbrook people bought PGA National and that's why it was like that? They like to do that to their golf courses to make it better for people like me. I had no idea. I heard that on a telecast over the weekend that the Innis group bought the course. So I'm like, oh, well, this makes tons of sense as to why it's overseas. That's exactly what they did with Copperhead a couple of years ago when you saw the tour like tear that place up and everyone's like, hey, what happened to Copperhead? Well,
yeah,
that's what happens. Not going to get that in Bay Hill, I guess is the point, right? It's never. So a great test. People say this is probably the toughest test that the tour sees in Florida. I probably agree with that. It does. There's what I do like about it though, the closing holes. If you can go 3 under on those closing holes, which is definitely possible, you can win a golf tournament that way. And I think we saw McIlroy do it, a couple of years ago. You go 3 2-4 or 3-3-3 to finish. And whenever you have that, to me that definitely defines a golf course.
Well, their birdie opportunities. 16 is obviously a very good eagle or birdie opportunity.
Right.
17 has the opportunity, but it's tough. 18 has the opportunity, but it's tough. So like it goes both ways. Honestly, like you could spit the bit coming down the stretch.
Yeah.
Hopefully you birdie 16.
Did you see what they did there?
I did. I'm not a fan of that, to be honest. I saw him take the bunker out.
I liked the bunker. I think it's going to be a harder hole now.
I think it is too. Yeah.
I think more balls.
Those save balls. That front bunker a lot. I played there. I'll tell you what. I played there 2 years ago, late in the summer. And typically in Florida, as you know, late summer, especially, courses are really burnt out. It's hot. It's keeping conditions up is tough. This course was so good and so tough. Like the rough was like the tournament rough. Honestly, it was like 3.5 inches or 4 inches in some spots. And the greens were just as fast and just as good. Like I was very impressed. I think I played it like it was the Bay Hill Invitational, how good it was late in the summer. But it's a great golf course. It's a very fun event to go to as well.
Oh, I totally agree. I've been to it a couple of times, and it's so well run. Obviously we go to the Valspar every year. No offense to the Valspar, just maybe take a couple of hints from down the road because it's awesome. It's a lot of fun to go to. Not that Valspar isn't, but I think you totally understand.
I've been to Valspar. I played the course a bunch. I've played the course more than Bay Hill, but I've been to that tournament a few times. I will say it's a much easier walk than Innisbrook. Innisbrook's a tough walk.
Yeah, it is. It is. If you're walking,
it's very hilly for being so close to the water, which is funny. So, but we might talk about that in a couple weeks. So
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, overall, the golf course it's very demanding. Tee to green. I think that's the safest way to put it. There are a lot of not gimme holes, but holes that kind of, I don't want to say let up, but there's definitely holes where like it's a little less demanding off the tee, allows them to have a wedge in and make some birdies. And obviously the par fives all play well under par. Yeah. So, but all the other holes play about a quarter of a shot over par. So it's basically hold on for dear life, except for the par fives.
You got to score on them. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll talk through the pricing on DraftKings. We'll walk through it. So I have the Stat Model Pro pulled up so we can walk through this. Got some interesting guys. I guess just one guy coming back, which is Xander, which we can get to. But overall, there are a lot of guys with fantastic course history. Obviously, Rory, Sung Jae Im actually has great course history here, and Scotty with 2 wins. So it makes it tricky on the top range to like try to make decisions on what you want to really focus on, because you can't play them all, obviously. But even like starting with a Scotty or a Rory kind of limits you quite a bit as you go down, and it's a pretty good field. So definitely have to pay attention to how your lineup construction goes. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and start with the 10K and up. We got Scotty Scheffler at 12K, Rory at 10.8, and Xander Schauffele at 10.1. I'll be honest, I'm going to be playing a good bit of Rory McIlroy. I'll play some Scotty. I think Xander's the easy out. Typically, in a week where Xander would come back would be like an off week event or like a regular season event. He's the cream of the crop. There's no harm in playing Xander Schauffele. In this type of event, I honestly don't know how anyone really gets to Xander. He doesn't even have great course history here. So he has a couple mediocre 20th or 30th place finishes. Typical. But to me, man, looking at Rory and Scotty is just such an easy way to start your player pool. I think Rory offers the savings, and that's probably where most people go to. So we'll see how the ownership shakes out. But either one of those, I think, are easy clicks. Xander's an easy out to me.
Yeah, I think ownership maybe plays a little bit of factor here, certainly. But if you're playing more single entry or not a ton of entries, getting to Xander, if he was like 9.6, 9.5, yes, I think maybe that makes sense. But 10.1, that seems expensive, especially when you've got Aberg and Morikawa and Cantlay, or Alberg, sorry, however you want to pronounce it, I guess. And even JT for that matter. Throw in JT. Good course history, been playing well all year, showed that he's pretty close to winning again. So first, let's say, Scotty and Rory, right? For Scotty, 12,000, appropriate price. I don't think you're going to get into any trouble. I think you can win a medium-sized field GPP with Scotty Scheffler on your team, who's, been playing pretty well. I mean, the strokes gain around the green was a problem. Then he comes back and, comes in first in strokes gain around the green in the next tournament. So for me, there's really, no questions. I think people will, if he doesn't win this week, will be like, what's wrong with Scotty? No, he just won at a ridiculous clip last year and, into the year before. So I expect him to be right there, T5 again, somewhere around that range. But with that being said, Rory McIlroy looks like he's playing some of the best golf he's played in years. Can he keep it up? We know this golf course is tailor-made for him. He's already won here, coming off the win at Pebble Beach. I mean, yeah, he's got everything going for him, and he's driving the ball. I mean, I really do think he's the best driver of the golf ball in the world. I'm not the only one, and statistics, pretty much back me up there for the most part. I will click more Rory than Scotty just based off of price. $1,200 is a lot. I mean, that gets you from somebody that's 6,000, say Rafael Campos. I know Eric Cole's in the home game, so we'll say Rafael Campos, and you're going to go all the way up to Davis Thompson, Thomas Dietrich, who just won a golf tournament, Billy Horschel playing well. For me, I would much rather have Rory and a Cameron Young's even there, Patrick Rogers, than a Scotty Scheffler and Rafi Campos at this point.
It does, yeah. This is kind of how I've always done it. Was like, especially for single entry, like you have an idea of who you want to click up top, have your idea, and then start in like the mid range or even a value play, and kind of see what you have left. I think a lot of people kind of get handcuffed. You go click Scotty Scheffler. There's nothing wrong starting with Scotty Scheffler, but all of a sudden, like you said, you end up with 6,200 or 6,400 left, and all of a sudden you're trying to figure out who you really want to click, and there's no real comfortable clicks. So sometimes it's better off, especially for single entry, where you're really just looking for a high floor that's going to beat, most of the players in that contest. Leaving it between Scotty and Rory is kind of doesn't really matter at that point for a single entry. You're just trying to build the best cumulative lineup. So I agree wholeheartedly. I definitely think the salary savings plays a part. With that being said, though, I do think there is a path in tournaments for some non-10K players to play some lineups. So you have it, like you kind of alluded to already, the 9K range is really loaded. Colin Morikawa looks fantastic, especially on a golf course here where driving accuracy, I talked to you about, pre-show, that 270 to 310, a lot of tee shots around, just under 300 yards. And I think he's he's second in the field. I pulled it up earlier in driving accuracy for that distance. And he's obviously great with his irons. So Colin Morikawa, to me, at 9,800 stands out quite a bit. JT as well, playing very good golf. I think he has one or two good finishes here. Nothing crazy, but definitely playing really good golf. And then I bet him already, but Tommy Fleetwood at 9,100. Just kind of a ball striking play. Like, obviously there's more that goes into it for winning. He does have some good memories at this golf course over the years. But like 9,100.
You gotta remember this one. I know you do. Just a 10-second story. I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
He led going into Saturday, and the course flipped. I don't know if you remember. They absolutely, from morning to night, the course baked out. And by the time the leaders got on the golf course, the course was completely different. Almost like what we saw at U.S. Open with like Shinnecock that one year when Berger and Finau and Fleetwood all made a move up the leaderboard. I remember Tommy was in first and kind of held on and then lost it on Sunday. But yeah, he's had a couple of chances here.
Yeah, I think had to be, was it 2019?
Yeah, I think it was before COVID. I want to say it was before COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to pull up really quick because I looked at it earlier. There was who won it? Molinari won it. And I think, Fleetwood finished third.
Yeah.
And the winning score, I think he finished at minus, where did it go? He ended up at minus 12. But I think to your point, basically, you got to the afternoon, it got baked out, really firm, wind picked up a little bit, and the course shooting even par is really tough. Hopefully, this is like the event everyone's been waiting for, basically since the start of the season, of like an actual par being a good score. Hopefully we get that. Unlike last week where that did not happen and people thought it would. So
again, there's going to be no overseed. I will say you and I both live local enough where it's more or less the same weather pattern, right? That Orlando sees, that we see.
For sure,
we are getting storms coming in on Wednesday that is going to affect the temperature and wind. So I do suspect that not only are we going to get a tougher golf course, we may see a little bit of carnage on Thursday, based on the report that I saw from the local guys, here for Wednesday. It looks like it's definitely going to, be blowing a little bit more than it was last week on a tougher golf course. So I could see single digits this week. I could, and that would be fun. I know that's what everybody wants right now.
It is. This is one of the few events where like an under par winning score could be like -3 and no one else shoots under par. It might not. It's probably not going to happen this week, but it's happened in the past, and that's always fun.
Yeah,
I enjoy it. I think that was Hatton's year. Hatton did that.
Yep. Yeah. Let's get it. Let's get a U.S. Open here. So just quickly on Justin Thomas, 28-1 is what I'm seeing him on FanDuel right now. I'm not going to lie. I saw you got Tommy Fleetwood at 30-1. I think it's a really, really good price for him. If Scotty is really not ready to win, the list is short behind him on guys, a tournament like this that I think are going to win. And Justin Thomas for me right now is on that short list. That Sunday round at the Waste Management kind of shows me that, okay, he's got to be really close. And I think this course sets up well enough for him if he's driving the ball well. And I think that's what we've seen this year, right? He's driving it well. His putting is always going to be below average, right? That's been Justin Thomas's MO basically his whole career, and he'll get hot for a round, maybe two. On this golf course with expected conditions, if the ball striking keeps up, I don't think the putting will hurt him. So I do like him at 9-4 as well. You can play him with Rory as your A and B guys and see what that kind of has left. But that's might even be able to fit one more in, given a lot of this field I think is going to make the cut. We're going to get the top 50 minimum. There's only 72 guys. And if the course plays tough, that 10-stroke difference is, you could be in last place and be 10 strokes from the lead.
Well, the thing that made JT so good a couple of years ago was irons. I mean, he was number one, I'm pretty sure, on tour before Scotty became Scotty. And that seems like what JT has brought back. He's driving the ball better, obviously, but the irons are elite. I mean, honestly, they're back to being elite. So, I guess I don't click Cantley very much. Is this a Cantley play for you, or is there just too much good plays around him where this might just be you don't mind him, but you're probably going to leave him out?
For me, it's going to be JT in a one-on-one. I'll take JT this week, in a head-to-head matchup for betting.
Yeah.
I'll probably stay away from that, but in terms of DFS ownership percentages, for me, it's Justin Thomas over Patrick Cantlay. Not that Cantley's playing bad. I mean, Cantlay has shown that he's played pretty consistently.
He's
but
interesting.
Winning edge. Yeah, I haven't seen really a winning edge, I guess, from Cantlay. And I do think that Thomas is closer than Cantlay to winning.
Cantley's one of those, at least to me, the last couple of years where he has a lot of top tens and his stats never look like he's having any top tens. Right. It's kind of a weird deal. You can kind of see that here a little bit where he's kind of average or just, he's above average, but there's not a lot of green for Cantley, and that's how he is every year. And he at every event almost, and he gets it done. So
no matter the tournament, really. I mean, he struggled in the U.S. Open, but it's right there in the Masters, but it seems like he's getting close, and then he's just taking 2 steps back. He's taking that 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, which gives you average to good results for a PGA Tour player, but not elite. And I'm exactly. I was one of the first people on Cantlay all those years ago, and I'm concerned that we haven't won in so many years. Right? It seems to be a little bit of a problem. I know it's hard to win on the PGA Tour. Don't get me wrong, but I think Thomas is closer. I think, and for me, if it's an easy one-on-one, I'd rather play Thomas McIlroy than try and build through Thomas Cantlay, Morikawa, for example.
Okay, perfect. Any other thoughts on this in this top range? You kind of glossed over Morikawa. You brought him up there at the end. So I like Morikawa quite a lot on this golf course.
Yeah, I mean, the stats have looked good. He's another guy that maybe an underperformer slightly.
Yeah,
recently.
I agree. Yeah,
but he came out so hot. We saw it with Spieth. We see 3 majors. Hasn't done anything. In the last couple of years, even on the win column. Same with Morikawa. But these guys are always there. Maybe it is a little bit of the Scotty Scheffler effect, right? That we suspect or really believe that these guys are going to win every year, and we think that they should. But I actually do think Morikawa is going to win this year. Honestly, his game does look good enough to win. His driving, he has picked up a little bit of distance this year. Still below average, I guess, for driving distance on the PGA Tour. But given that this golf course, if you have a good longer iron game, which Morikawa has, or a good longer approach game, which Morikawa definitely has, maybe one of the best. Yeah, this should be a golf course he competes at.
Yeah,
distance. At my age, I like it for sure.
Distance is valuable, but like honestly, this is one of the few courses on tour that are left really that accuracy actually pays more. I mean, distance, we showed it on the par fives. The distance penalty is pretty big for obvious reasons. But man, if you're hitting it in the rough, a hefty amount, you're not going to do well here. It's hard enough to hit the greens from the fairway. Yep. You're not hitting it at a 3.5-inch thick Bermuda. That's lush. So it's not going to work. I just think it's a perfect fit for his type of game.
Yeah, agreed. I think, thinking about the par fives, right? The first one, what is it, 4? Yeah. Right. Yeah. 4. That's a long hole. Not many of the field is really getting there in 2. I mean, even if you do, getting it close to that hole in 2 is very difficult. It plays uphill. I really don't think driving distance necessarily helps you a ton there. That 20 yards Morikawa might lose. Again, very small percentage of the field.
Well, even just across the whole golf course, I just think that the distance isn't valuable enough to knock him. My point is to knock him. I mean, distance is always going to be valuable. McIlroy is going to beat him more times than not with his distance if they hit the same number of fairways because of the distance. But I think he does have an advantage on being such a good driver and such a good long iron player.
Totally agree.
All right, let's we can hop down into the 8K range a little bit better. I think there's one guy, at least to me, that stands out down at the bottom. There's a good range here we can talk through, but I do think Sepp Straka, if it's not this week, it might be next week, Jason, at the Players Championship. The guy has been playing just really, really good, consistent golf week after week. It's been very impressive to watch him rack up the good finishes and then rack up the stats to follow. So
what do you think? What do you think attribute? Because it is like every week. Sure, he won last year. This guy's turning into like somebody that's going to make the Ryder Cup team. That's going to be like maybe a pivotal part of that European Ryder Cup team. Like, yeah, this guy's a quality golfer. It cost me first and second last week. Actually, the first 2 teams, first and second place had him in the $5 contest. Yeah, he's doing everything well right now.
Yeah, his last 5 starts is a win, T7, 15th, miscut at the Genesis at Torrey Pines, and then T11 last week at the Honda. So just really good stats across the board except for back at Torrey. So, and he didn't play the Farmer, so I assume it just probably isn't a good golf course for him, and he just played it for a signature event. So I will throw that one out the window, honestly.
Yeah.
So he is just, I don't know what I could attribute it to be completely honest. His course history here is not good, but a lot of times, especially he's cheap enough so you can kind of stomach it. I don't care. I want the guy playing good. And Sepp Straka is that guy. He's playing every course good. So nothing to talk bad about there. Daniel Berger had a rough start a rough finish, I should say, last week. I don't know where his back stands. I heard he's struggling a little bit. I probably will go back to Berger. I know that Keegan's probably the one that's getting left out on this golf course, and I do like Keegan here. But I don't know if you have any overall thoughts here in the 8K range. We have, some interesting names. Zalatoris is up here, and he hasn't really popped for anybody up until a couple weeks ago. So,
Zalatoris, I think, is a little too far away for me to play at 8,600. I think we're going to get more out of Taylor Pendrith, Tom Kim, Corey Connors, maybe all of those guys, honestly, over Zalatoris. Not that I don't think Willie Z is on the comeback trail. He's not going to compete if he's 37th in strokes gained on the approach. That's how he does it. He's never going to be good enough putting, in my opinion. No offense, 50th, here as you show on the screen. The putter's never going to be good enough for him to overcome not being in the top 15 in strokes gained on the approach. He also doesn't have as much distance, as when he first broke on tour. Listen, he had a, microdiscotomy. He's coming back from that. Do you ever come back, Kevin Chappell?
Well, he's doing a lot of other stuff with that too. I don't know. There's a video on Titleist YouTube. I would encourage everyone to check it out. It's actually really interesting. They had Cam Young on there and a couple other guys, but they had Zalatoris talking through like he's making some serious swing changes just to accommodate his back. Like a lot.
I have to watch it too. I just got back from an MRI from lower back problems, so I definitely sympathize with Willie, and I think I'll probably check that out because I might be heading down the same path here. Now, I'm not competing on the PGA Tour; I'm just competing at Cypress Run Golf Club here in some fun tournaments. But
it's interesting. No, there's a small tidbit on Cameron Young, and he's playing terrible. He says, "Is it the Travelers when he shot 59 on Thursday or Friday, the day before?" He's like, I was so frustrated. I went to the fitness trailer and did 100 push-ups, and then I shot 59. He goes, so now every day I do 100 push-ups. It's just like that's such a Cameron Young, galaxy brain thing to do. So
yeah, you're gonna have to scroll down a little bit, by the way, to find him this week, which is interesting.
Well, people are betting him at 100 to 1 already, but it is a good watch if you go find it on Titleist YouTube. It's I like the behind the scenes stuff, really good. So, but yeah, I cut you off there. Any major feels here? Or is this kind of like a dead zone? I assume you go back to Straka, maybe not. His course history isn't good, but anyone that stand out to you?
Yeah, so let's take McNeely is playing well enough, which I'll give him a pass, right? Let's go 86 to 8,300. You can maybe even include Lowry, I guess, if you want to. Not really. Lowry played good enough last week. Let's take those four guys. Berger had a really tough finish. He already said that he's tired. He was dealing with some type of sickness or something. Didn't eat enough or whatever. Sometimes what I think DraftKings does in these tournaments is they flip the 86 to 8,200 and the 78, or call it 79 to 7,600. Because you look at those names: Taylor Pendrith, Tom Kim, Corey Connors, Akshay Bhatia, all playing arguably better than Zalatoris, Bradley, Hovland. Even Ben Griffin, you could really say that too.
I agree. Yeah.
So, and then we got Jason Day going on Buzz Lightyear here with me this week. We'll never forget that. Probably one of the greatest moments in PGA history. Jason Day withdraws on the fourth hole and is on, what is it? Midway Mania. It's the one in Magic Kingdom. I forget the name. It's Buzz Lightyear.
It's the Buzz Lightyear ride. I forget. But yeah,
you're right. It's a great ride. It's fun. Not gonna lie to you. But yeah, he's actually playing okay as well. He's had a decent finish recently. So I think they do that. I think they do that to mess with people sometimes. And what ends up happening is ownership comes in relatively flat between all of them because most people think you're going to gravitate towards that 7,800 range, but no one's sticking out enough where I think that's going to happen. Maybe Taylor Pendrith just because of a decent assumed course fit, and the stats do look good. Yeah,
I think you're right to a point. Like there's been times where there's a player, because especially that's so thin, I guess, in the 8K and 9K range. There's only so many guys. If they nested some of those guys that are might have good course history or have a little bit of good recent form and bad course history down at like 7,100, they'd get forgotten. But somehow at 8,200, they're 18% owned. So it is an interesting dynamic. Not exactly sure what they try to do, but there's definitely been times where it's like, man, that guy shouldn't be getting that much ownership. And I bet if he was 7,200, there's 50 guys in the low 7Ks, he would be forgotten. He would be nothing. So it is interesting.
Totally agree.
All right, if you want to talk about the high 7Ks, since it seems like you think they deserve a little more praise, we can go into that. There are some, like you said, there's some very good names. There's guys with good course history, good recent form. We talked about Ben Griffin before the show started on running 10 straight events this week and likely 11 next week. I don't know if he's playing the Valspar, but honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. It's not a very long drive, but the guy's playing 3 straight months.
Yeah, it's so similar to Eric Cole to me. It's crazy the type of player that they are, which was just like, the guy was working as a mortgage insurance salesman. Eric Cole grinding mini tours like these guys thought they were done, and here they are in a period of their best golf of their life, and they're capitalizing. And Ben Griffin might say, "Listen, I'm going to play every week until I miss a cut." You know,
Yeah.
why not? He's, it's an ATM machine right now. The old
Yeah.
Matt Kuchar saying, right? That guy was just an ATM for years, would make every cut. And Ben Griffin's doing that right now. At 7,600. Yeah, I really don't mind it. The betting. He's not going to win this tournament. As I scroll down to just make sure that I'm going to put $1 on him now. No, I don't think he's going to win this tournament. So I wouldn't be betting him in the outright market. But again, a make the cut bet. I don't know if those are quite out yet, but for a make the cut bet, the guy continues to get it done. I know the odds will probably be relatively
pretty bad.
Yeah, I would include him on, at least a couple of those if people make parlays of those. Again, I think he's good. Akshay Bhatia, something stuck out to me. He played Mexico. Maybe there was a sponsor obligation there, because he had talked about being kind of tired and trying to get his energy back. But what it showed to me was he still played pretty good. It looks like his game is pretty good, in good shape. Maybe that week off to come in to get, come back to Florida, come back to the East Coast, get that week of rest, do whatever he, does to kind of get that energy back. Yeah, I think the next 2 weeks this guy could really be in play. I think this golf course, if we're going to choose one or the other, I think this golf course is better suited for him. He does spray the ball off the tee a little bit. And while we talked about accuracy being important here this week, I think the scoring average, I think you've got to have more precision. I don't know. Maybe he's a good fit for both. What's your take on Akshay?
Well, yeah, I was going to pull him up to see specifically.
Because I do think his game in this range is playing the best. Tom Kim's playing pretty good too, but I do think Akshay has shown a little bit more upside here recently.
Yeah, I don't mind. I think the recent form holds some weight, in my opinion. So I think if you back a guy, I think he's generally good off the tee, to be completely honest. So at 7,800, he's not that hard of a click for me, to be honest. I think a lot of these guys, as we go down, there's a lot more scar tissue in terms of like looking back at their missed cuts here, and Akshay isn't one of them, and he's got good recent form. So I would be clicking Akshay here. I think honestly his ball flight helps if we're going to be really a nit on guys that could do well here. He hits it sky high, and this is going to be a benefit to him with his long irons. So, yeah, I do like Akshay. I think everyone in this range is probably viable, even if Tom Kim, just from his accuracy. I think his long irons are actually better than most people. Maybe not. I think people may consider him not the best long iron player because his distance isn't there. But I do think Tom Kim is one of those guys. And then Pendrith, I think, burned me enough last week. And honestly, I think 2 weeks ago, I'll probably go back to Pendrith, but I don't think I'm going to go to Jason Day. I don't think I'm going to go back to Fitzpatrick despite his good course history. Again, it's like weighing the recent form and what they've shown me lately versus what they've done here. And I know Fitzpatrick somehow plays great on this type of golf course, but it has not been the same. It's been really scrappy.
Yeah, the strokes gained being 10th off the tee is definitely interesting for a guy like him.
Maybe that's all he's been doing. I mean, he had this big push for distance, and now everything else is falling apart. So he chips cross-handed, is around the greens terrible.
Yeah, let's maybe reevaluate that. I have, I'm a golf experimenter. I enjoy trying different things. I don't know, over my shoulder here. I've got the Wyndham Clark, the wicked long grip on one of those mallet heads. Yeah, I got the belly putter. I try out everything.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the Scotty Scheffler, on Bermuda, the Scotty Scheffler Spider is the best putter I've ever putted with. I can tell you that. It's just it rolls so true on the Bermuda. Maybe not when you start to go up north. I mean, it's a little different. But anyways, getting back to this range, Minwoo Lee and Sahith Theegala are two names that I think people love to click. So I think Matt Fitzpatrick could still go under-owned here if the other part of his games can come into play and he can actually utilize his off-the-tee strength that he's kind of found. Could be a course for him to definitely do that, but the around-the-green game is troubling.
It's tough, yeah, on a Monday without ownership to compare because that does make a big difference. Like Minwoo Lee, like in a vacuum, Minwoo Lee, I would love to play over Matt Fitzpatrick, but if Minwoo Lee is somehow 16% and Fitz is 3% or something, now we're starting to make decisions, especially in the larger pool GPP. So Do you have a take on Michael Kim? I've the last couple weeks, I think his first event, I can't remember which one. I actually have it pulled up. He finished, let's see, like where he really started to play good is a Waste Management, finished T2. And since then, he's gone T2, T13, T13, T6. And after his T2 at Waste Management, going to Torrey, I kind of did a wait and see approach. Honestly, there's some of those guys have a flash in the pan, a good week. I think Scottsdale is pretty forgiving, to be honest. Like, I think there's guys that can go there with not the best form and do okay. But since then, man, he's been he's been rattling off good finishes. All his stats look good. He has a miscut here like 6 years ago. I think Michael Kim is one of those. He might be building up some confidence. He might honestly, like to your point, Ben Griffin's been so consistent. Michael Kim actually might be playing better in terms of statistics than Ben Griffin. So I think Michael Kim, I've kind of gone back and forth, but the last few weeks it's been like pedal down. And he hasn't let us down yet. And this is a tough golf course. But if you're playing good, and he seems kind of mental in terms of like he gets his confidence going and he thinks he's one of the best in the world. Obviously, he's one of the best in the world. But
I don't know exactly what you need that edge, though, right?
You do, yeah.
Yeah. So
it seems like he has it, man. Like he's very full of himself.
On Twitter, it does. Like. I don't think you can be as open and honest as he is in such a public eye like Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and not have a type of self-confidence to, have that edge. So yeah, interesting. Sure. I don't know if it's a great fit of a golf course though. His driving distance is still definitely not as good. The iron game in the short game has been super impressive. Interesting. If he goes out and competes here this week, definitely. I think for me as a DFS player, I would be looking for a letdown this week and possibly a restart right back next week, where of course is a little shorter and maybe I think he can use. He talks about being able to shape the ball and see things, and at Sawgrass you can certainly do that. So
sure.
For me it might be a
fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of skip that. Play the Akshay. Play Mr. Magic Kingdom there at 7,700. Jason Day.
Are you going to go back to Penrith after the miscut? Obviously, a very different golf course, and off the tee is kind of his strength. So,
for me, in both at 7,900, he's plus 175 to top 20. I see Tom Kim at plus 190. And Tom Kim being a little cheaper on DFS. It's same price. So in the betting market, I would take Tom Kim because I think Tom Kim is probably playing as good as Pendrith right now, and he has a little bit more distance. So this year that he's added a little bit of weight, a little bit of strength. So yeah, I think I do like Tom Kim over Pendrith in this range.
Okay,
and then I think we can go down. What's your take on Thagala? I mean.
Not good.
Short game. You know me. I'm a short game lover. I love spins when you don't expect it. What's your take on Thagala? You think he's too wild to compete here?
Yeah, I'm not a Thagala fan. I like Thagala the person. From a golfing standpoint, his success has been surprising to say the least to me. And I just don't think this is the course. What's that?
Well, maybe overproducing as compared to some of our other guys that are maybe underproducing,
So I definitely think he's an overperformer. I mean, he's had some really good, I forget last year, was it? I think he had a bunch of top 15s in a row, like just playing great golf. But even during that span, it seemed thin in terms of like how he was doing it off the tee was not the best. With his irons, still not the best. It was almost like Cantley in a sense of just kind of average and exceeding everything that you could see on paper. So I'm not a Sahith guy. I just, he's not going to be a prolific winner. I probably don't get burned very often. So I'm a bad one to ask. I think you got to be a better driver to start to contend more frequently.
You're absolutely right. You've got to be in play. You can't be average.
You can't scramble. Even if you chip in once around, that's great, but you're not going to hit ceilings. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think the key is here is Sahith has kind of a twofold problem off the tee, is where he's not in the overly long category,
and he's crooked.
And he's definitely not in the accurate category either.
Yeah.
You've got to have one or the other. You can't be not good in both. That's a big problem on the PGA Tour, especially on these tougher tracks, like we've talked about. But yeah, just one more thing on Akshay, plus 210 on the top 20 this week. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's on FanDuel. So sometimes you and I see better odds on Hard Rock for golf placements. I've noticed they're actually pretty competitive. So we'll check those when they drop. But I do like that back-to-back top 10s, and like I said, I think his game is right there. We had 2 bad rounds at the Genesis, sandwiched with 2 really good rounds. So yeah, I think we're right there. I think it's a really good bet, and he will be one of my top plays on DFS. I do think he is longer off the tee than average. He's definitely not as accurate. But yeah, I'm ready to definitely click him and play him.
Okay. Fair enough. One guy I will go back to off of last week's miss cut is Davis Thompson, another guy that's very good off the tee. And I think his irons actually have gotten a bad rap. If we look through some of especially the stats that guys can compile at PGA National with all the water can be very drastic. And that's kind of what we saw. So for me, I think Davis Thompson is a really good fit. Is playing as well as he is off the tee. A lot of it's just getting in position and then trying to get the irons to do some work. So I do like Davis Thompson as a bounce back, kind of in the same breath as Dietrich. I'll click both, but I think Davis Thompson is perfect. It's a perfect storm. A guy that was tipped and was somewhat popular last week at 9K or whatever he was, coming off a miscut to a golf course like this. And he's kind of in that exact same price I was talking about, 7,200. He kind of gets nestled in there. Nothing really pops too much for anybody. And he's going to get some ownership, but he's not going to get it like if he was 8K. I think 8K he would be a little more popular, as crazy as that sounds. So I do like Davis Thompson a good bit on this golf course at 7,200 as well. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. I mean, the guy almost won 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago and was playing great. And when a player does that and ball striking remains there, typically means there's something more than just a 1 week blip. And the fact that he lost 3.2 strokes in a short game last week in 2 rounds, in a week that played significantly easier than it typically does around the green with the overseed.
Yeah.
That'll be negated this week again. It'll be much tougher around the green. So that loss of 2 strokes around the green specifically probably at least goes down 50%. That gets him through to the weekend. And I think he missed it by what? Yeah, he was -3. So he missed it by 2. And if he matches the field and makes the weekend and then all of a sudden wins it like Joe Highsmith does, I'm not saying that would have happened, but let's say he comes in the top 10. He's priced at 7,800. He's probably going to come in at 15% ownership. Now he's 72, and no one's going to click him. So, yeah, it's a great call there.
All right. Let's see. There's probably a few down here that I'll include in my pool. Sam Steven. Well, we'll get into the 6Ks here in just a second. But any others here? JJ Spawn playing great. I will keep going back to JJ Spawn. The guy gets kind of neglected, being priced down here and having a really good year. Even off of his bad performance finishing at Sony, which was really tough to watch him and Jaeger on 18. That was very disgusting. I was throwing up, not literally, but figuratively in my living room watching that. Gosh, it was terrible. So, but he's, man, as far as ball striking goes, very consistent. And if you look through this, like even this is just kind of a very 10,000 level view, a 10,000 foot view. Approach is pretty good. It's a top 10 in this sample, and still 50th, above average or about average in this field. So like putting the two together, there's a lot to be had for, I think, JJ Spawn as a consistent player at 7K.
Yeah, agreed. I have absolutely no issues. I know that people like to know plays and fades and whatnot, but I don't really have any issues with anybody in this 7,200 to 6,900 range. Everyone's playing pretty consistently. Billy Horschel's the Florida guy. Max Gracerman is continuing to get it done. Cam Young is continuing to not get it done, but
terrible.
71st in approach. Yeah, I'm definitely not playing him.
Yeah,
he's maybe the only one that the talent level is clearly there. We've seen, but it's not there right now. I'd rather play Patrick Rogers. Maybe even rather play Sam Stevens. That's 69.
Well, I would say I would agree. I think this range, like we were just talking about, just kind of wrap up this range. Like all these guys are probably in consideration for a player pool.
10,
The
15,
different,
20%. Yep.
yeah, I think the different conversation would be like single entry. And to me, like some of these guys, like JJ Spawn would probably make it for me. I think Davis Thompson would probably make it for me. All the rest here, I'm probably not clicking if I was building one lineup in any, high dollar single entry contest. Like just as far as faith in.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Making the cut, like, yeah, that we want a 6 of 6, and it's probably going to be surprisingly low after we talk about it.
In Florida,
We still want some ceiling, and I just think you're going to look for me at least, I'm looking for guys that, to me at least, click Spawn, Davis Thompson. I feel a little bit more comfortable about surviving the cut and also having upside to not just flounder at 48th place. So,
yeah. No, I'm definitely with you there. Davis Thompson's probably my favorite in a single entry scenario for sure.
All right, I got an interesting one for you too. As we go down into the 6K range, and then we'll kind of wrap up the show.
Yeah.
The Nick Taylor, 100 to 1 on Hard Rock, 120 to 1 on I think DK or FanDuel or some other book. 6,700. I like Nick Taylor quite a lot here, and I have to pull up my notes, but I'll let you talk through a couple of these guys. But like Nick Taylor, I had a few tidbits on him as far as like his off the tee looks not appealing, but when I started dialing it into those specific kind of distance ranges that we would want them to excel at, he was actually in like the top 11. I think that's what it was. He was top 11 in the field, strokes gained off the tee, specifically in 270 to 310. So when we start to look at some of these players, and like I said, this is like a 10,000 foot view. Nick Taylor, mediocre, we'll say average off the tee. But when I look at what's he going to face this week, I think we can actually skew that number lower. We'll meet in the middle. We'll call it 20th place. I think Nick Taylor actually has a lot of upside, especially coming off of some really good performance to start the year.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard not to click his name. The guy continues to get it done. I mean, wins.
He's so consistent, man. I like him a lot actually nowadays. I've grown to like Nick Taylor. It used to be like, hey, he's just kind of hanging around the tour, not doing much. But all of a sudden, man, he's won 3 times in the last 2 years. He's looking to be pretty good. I feel like he's disrespected down here at 6,700 a little bit.
At 6,700, I totally agree. I was going to say, 7,600, the guy continues to get it done. It really is hard not to click this guy's name. I'm not going to lie to you. At 6,700, Harris English is another guy that, listen, Drew, if this gets tough, if this gets hard,
yeah,
English will be right there at even par. He tends to do that. He already won, Farmers earlier this year, which is kind of that kind of tournament. I know it's the North Course a little bit mixed in, but still tough tournament to win, and he got it done. What an interesting name that I got to bring up, because it's quite an ascent. He had a tough go to get here, but the now 27-year-old Isaiah Salinda, this guy was highly touted coming out of Stanford and just didn't make it. Grinded though. And this is why I love bringing it up, because I know you like guys like this too, and we just appreciate the grind. This guy stuck with it. Got his card from the Korn Ferry Tour last year. I think it was maybe his second or even third year, trying out for these, minor league tours, we'll call them. Korn Ferry, obviously is definitely unbelievable, competition. But still, he didn't really make it. And the guy is now, because of his great finish in Mexico T3, he's here this week. He's got a huge chance to really turn his career around. Another big finish this week, and the guy has set up. So just a name that I'm going to click this week because the momentum is there. Looked like he was the cut last week, ends up rallying on his back nine to earn another paycheck. So I think we've got, a little bit of momentum here for Salinda.
Yeah, I pulled up his player profile. Yeah, the last 3 events are starting to really be a big spike in off the tee and then approach, obviously. Even last week, T39, he lost 3 strokes putting. So, yeah, I 100% agree. I did not realize he was 27. I'm still thinking he was, a couple years removed. I forget. You forget a couple years removed from college is 27 nowadays. You guys, play a 5th year or something. They're 23 when they graduate. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you there on Salinda.
Yeah, it's funny to see Salinda priced next to a guy like Max Homa, right? You know,
Well, Max Homa's, man, has had a bad one. Yeah, people are gonna. I still see people. You know, they're kind of chasing Homa a little bit, and they might get paid off at some point when he just has the week. But that week may never come. I don't know. I kind of stand on the fence a little bit on Homa. I know how much he struggled on tour when he first got his tour card 6 years ago, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Then he went back to the Corn Ferry Tour, did so good. Went back to the tour, did great, or did poorly. Went back to the Corn Ferry Tour, and finally broke out. I don't know, man. He's struggling. He's kind of in that Cam Young camp of
elites
that lost it. Yeah, you consider him, you know, one of the top guys. He was one of the top guys, and now he's literally one of the bottom guys in a 70-man field. So
yeah, it's going quick. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's going very quick. If I'm going into this range, which I already mentioned, I'll play a little Salinda. I'm definitely gonna click Cam Davis's name.
I just pulled him up. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the 69th off the tee is. I'm not really concerned about that because he is the most aggressive player on the PGA Tour. I don't think there's anybody more aggressive than Cam Davis. He's going to take driver on a 270-yard par four. He doesn't need a driver there. But looking at it, I'm not scared. He hits the ball miles, so I think he'll make up for the distance a little bit here. The problem is with him is he is a boom or bust. If you look at his finishes, we are top 25 or better or missed cut. There is no, you're going to get a 36th place finish and get 70 DFS points. No. Not with Cam Davis. You're either going to get a top 20 or a missed cut. But I don't mind that at 6,400. That's great. Honestly, Drew, that's great.
I agree. Yeah.
I want to ask you about Novak because he was popular last week at 7,900. He blew up on Friday after a good Thursday, ended up missing the cut, shot 4 over. It was one of the first guys out. So I don't know, maybe he had a bad night's sleep. Maybe he drank a little bit too much. I don't know what the issue was. It happens. He's popular on Twitter, so maybe he sees this. Hey, Andrew, sorry about your round on Friday if you do see this. But I'm actually interested in him at 6,400.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Again, we're getting into a price point where it's definitely you can't pick and choose to a degree, right? Like you're not getting a guy that's checking all the boxes. But I will say it's somewhat unfair for a guy like Novak with one bad week, which he did have a bad week last week. But when you start to include that into his last 4 events, similar to how the Spectrum data works as far as removing outliers to a degree, throwing in the bad 2 round, he really had 2 bad rounds of approaches last week. Now all of a sudden his whole stats skew to the left. So I do think it's a little bit unfair. If you think about his profile, though, I do think it's a fantastic fit. As far as like a ceiling, like he's a good driver. He does play aggressively. I don't think his irons, I think this is a little bit misleading. I think he's actually played better with his irons up until last week. About even. I guess he gives and takes a little bit. He's right around flat his last few events. So I do think he's a good boomer bust play, to your point, for especially the price. But I actually, Novak is one of those few. I wish more guys on tour were like that. A little bit more personable. He's hard to dislike. There's certain guys that on tour you just don't like.
Yeah, that Perez and Ty Hatton are 2 guys that
Well, Wyndham Clark's that for me. He kind of seems nice, but then at the same point you watch him out there and it's like, I don't know, man. He kind of seems like a dick. So but Novak just seems chill. Like he's really fun to watch.
His interactions are fun and genuine on Twitter, obviously, as well. So
he's like a fun Kokrak. He's like a better, more fun Jason Kokrak. His game reminds me of Kokrak a lot. He has a similar swing.
I wanted to ask you actually at one point, what is the number 1 player that has gone to leave that you have legitimately forget about? Kokrak is definitely in my top 5 because I forgot he existed before you just said it.
There was gosh, I was just thinking about this the other day. Oh man, Charles Howell's up there. He's one. I want to say it was a South African, or it was. Oh yeah, it was Leishman. I think it was Leishman. I think Leishman. I forgot. I mean, he was a top player for a while, and now he's over there. Yeah,
he's on the LIV tour. I actually really liked Mark Leishman too. But
yeah, me too. So there's a handful of guys. Again, I don't blame him for taking the money. Like
especially those guys, especially the ones we're mentioning. Like, I'm happy for them. They're definitely getting paid more.
Well, it's funny. Like, it's easy to dislike DJ when he first went, or Phil, or Brooks, but like Charles Howell went over there. It's like, I get it, man. You're almost 50.
All those guys, yeah.
Yeah. So
even Bubba Watson, like,
there you go. That's a good one. Forgot about Bubba Watson.
Good for Bubba.
Funny enough, he's in Happy Gilmore too. Somehow.
Is he? Oh, I cannot.
Because he was in. If you watch the Full Swing, they showed like the behind the scenes of, and he's in one of the shots in the clubhouse. And I was like, that's Bubba Watson. How'd they call him up? But I think he's probably number one. He's probably the number one forgotten guy that was fun to watch, and now no one cares.
Gone.
Sad to say.
So yeah, back to the 6Ks. Just to give you a couple more thoughts. Nick Taylor. Sorry, not Nick Taylor. We already talked about him. Nick Dunlap.
Okay.
I know the stats are not great. I know off the tee is awful, but he seems to get it done, especially in these signature events. I'm going to play a decent amount at 6,300. I like to play the MME. I've always said that. Most people know by now. That's I just like to. It's fun.
Yeah.
He'll probably be in 5 or 10% of my lineups. I think Austin Eckroat is a little lost right now. I don't think I'm going to click him. Joe Highsmith, however, I relate this to the Keith Mitchell won Honda or Cognizant, whatever you want to call it. Then next week came in fourth at the API in a similar scenario. I actually think Highsmith, no reason not to play this guy. If his irons are going to be as good as they were last week, if he gets the ball in the fairway, he's going to be in the top 20 again. I know it's obviously a much better field, but at 6,200, I will play your returning winner.
He's a good GPP play. I will say, I think he's going to struggle on the greens his first time out here. Like, these greens are way tougher than what PGA National has, and I agree to your point. He's cheap enough and tee to green. He should be able to make the cut and do okay, especially after doing well last week on a tough golf course as well. But I do think getting on the greens and now all of a sudden now you're making 6-footers for par, it's going to be tough. So I have lower expectations for him. I don't disagree. I think he should be in your player pool for larger field stuff, but I'm pumping my brakes a tad. Just I think you're gonna. It's tough putting on some of these greens if you're not used to it. And he's from California or Washington. It's this will be his first taste of real Bermuda rolling 13s.
So if Brian Campbell hits 100% of his fairways this week, is he that we should?
Dude, you're talking about Celinda and Campbell's in that same boat now.
These guys.
No, I can't. I'm not going to go back to Campbell.
A little too big of a golf course here. It's not the friendly resort layout that Vedanta is. Is that kind of what you're telling me?
A bit, yeah. Yeah. And this is where distance would make a big difference. Like I said,
so
more Kala, not so much.
Yeah. Would you rather play Pot Guider, speaking of Vedanta?
Say that again?
Would you rather play Pot Guider up there at 6,500?
No, I think is something to be said for hitting it in enough fairways. No, I won't play Pot Guider. I honestly, like you said, distance does matter, but if as much as he can spray it with that club head speed, there's a lot to miss out there as well. So it's very possible. Those fairways aren't exactly wide at Bay Hill. So yeah, I'm not going to play. I will not play any Pot Guider. If he beats me, he beats me.
Yeah, the around the green game, which he will have a lot of, given he was 68th in approaches, which means on this golf course he's missing a lot of greens.
Well, he also has to hit irons.
Yeah,
he has to play.
Yeah, he can't hit the driver off the deck here. Yeah, there's no driver off the deck scenarios really.
No.
You
just can't gain enough off the tee in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, 19 years old or 18 years old, whatever he is. I think he's going to be a force to be, reckoned with.
He's only going to get better. Tidy it up a little bit and figure out, how to harness that a little bit. But
not here right now.
Not here. I'm not going to play him here.
I'm not either.
No, that's probably it.
Maybe a little bit of Justin Rose. You got Chris Kirk's name clicked. Maybe Max McGreevy. Doesn't look like, and Jacob Bridgman. Okay, maybe that's where we could, throw in.
Those would be two I would definitely play. Honestly, I wouldn't mind punting off one of those guys in single entry. I've tried to be a little bit more aggressive. Single entries have turned into GPPs in a sense. So I've tried to get a cheap 6K guy. What's that?
Bridgman flying off a Sunday, almost winning the golf tournament, 7 under? That's got to be some momentum. Jake Knapp kind of talked about how his round at the Mexico Open really carried over into that Thursday at Honda, or where he
I had Bridgman wrote up in 2 or 3 things, and then he pulled like in a couple snapshots that I took of different stats, and he was like top 5 in each one. I didn't bet him, and I was like, worst case would have been Highsmith, Bridgman winning, Highsmith finished second. You don't get any money and you don't get any clout for Bridgman. And but yeah, I agree. I think both of them are playing good. McGreevy definitely playing good. And consider down here, being average is pretty good. Like you're well above the average of this range by just being average in all these stats. So Bridgman playing good, and he's a longer hitter. And then McGreevy as well. I don't know his distance. I assume he's probably one of the young, longer guys as well. But I'm 100% with you.
Just Eric Holt not playing good enough. Can't do it. No. I know he's a darling, but he's falling off right now on the way. However, the guy below him at 6K, Jackson Quaven. I mean, this guy, he's not quite as good as Luke Clanton. Yeah, not quite a Luke Clanton, but at that price, I'll have 3 to 5%. Won't go to entry. You would rather go up to Bridgman, but yeah, I'll take a little bit of Quaven in the GDP.
Yeah. I won't harp on
mid-price guy. Yeah, I mean, he got it at that point.
He played the Farmers and made the cut.
Kind of a big golf course there too,
It is, yeah, but he's good. I mean, I don't know what his ranking is now, but he's got to be one of the top 5 amateurs, I assume.
Yeah, he might even be 2 or 3 at this point. Yeah,
they got to get Clanton out of that ranking, so move these guys up.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Ran through a good array. Like I said, I think lineup construction will be key. I think you kind of talked about that too, as far as figuring out where you want to start, and then sprinkling in some cheaper guys. So I will leave. I know we're running a little bit long, but if you want to talk about what you're doing over at Gambly, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah. It's been a really fun time over at Gambly. First, we started with Gambly Chat, obviously, and if you haven't, checked that out, our sports betting chat bot that helps you get, the best odds or odds comparisons on golfers. We have plenty of sports, but obviously we're talking PGA here. And then with the new introduction of Gambly Bot, if you guys haven't heard of that, it's basically a bot that helps you create clickable bet slips that works for NBA, CBB, and PGA. So if you are in Fantasy Golf Bag Discord, it is in there, and we'll do a little bit of test this week. And also the Gambly Discord, I am able to call it in there as well. So a couple of cool things. And then next week for the players, we've got something really cool coming out. I'm not going to lie to you guys, especially coming from the world of content and content creation, to be working on this next product. I can't tell you how excited I am about it. We teased it a little bit last night through our CEO, John Bales' account at Bales Bet. If you guys want to see a little tidbit of what could be coming, but I'm not going to lie to you. This one I'm really, really excited for. I love listening to hear people who they're on and whatnot. And I think this product for people like that are going to really love it. So I'm excited. Stay tuned for that next week. Next Monday is when we're looking to bring that out.
Awesome. Look forward to that. That'd be fun. I've heard your rumblings about it, so excited to see what you're cooking up. But appreciate it, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us for the Fantasy Golf Bag podcast. As always, you guys can find us on Twitter. And then you can find me at fantasygolfbag.com. So with that being said, best of luck this week, everybody. And we will talk to you. Gotta find the outro later. See ya.